favorite place in the whole entire world is the kitchen. I wish I was joking, but I'm kind of not. I just love cooking. It's the one space I feel really de-stressed. Yeah, I just really like making up recipes. So one thing I do like to do, and I encourage you to do, get organized before you actually start the cooking process. If you get everything prepared and everything ready, all you have to do is just chuck it in the bowl and you can like commentate yourself. Like, no joke, I would commentate myself cooking and I'll pretend I had my own cooking show. So step 1, preheat your oven. Step 2 is get organized and get every single ingredient you need out on the counter. So let me just swivel the camera, show you my pantry. Oh my gosh, I've never had to do that before. I feel so bad because I'm in the middle of filming. I didn't want to like drive up the street and have to get an egg. And normally if I don't have an egg, I'll make like a vegan flax egg. But I just couldn't be bothered. So I went across the hall to like our neighbor and I asked for an egg. So thank you so much to my beautiful neighbor for making this recipe possible. If you don't have these exact ingredients, don't stress out. It changes every single time. And the ones I made 2 nights ago are probably gonna be different to the ones I make today. Favorite flour to cook with is blanched almond meal. I prefer blanched almond meal over normal almond meal just because it has a bit more of like a cakey smell and taste. I don't know, like, yeah, if you smell it, it just reminds me of baking. 1.5 cups. And because almond meal is pretty heavy and thick and dense, you want to fluffy it up a little bit. So I also like to use buckwheat flour, 1/4 cup of that. I'm totally making this up. Like, this is going to be completely different to the other one. And then again, to make it nice and fluffy and it helps blend it all together, I'm going to add 1/4 cup of tapioca flour. Cool. A few cracks of salt. I like my cookies pretty salty, so... And then the salt is also going to help the baking powder activate. 3/4 teaspoons of baking powder. And the reason I'm baking these cookies now is because I feel like it's probably not just my family, but when we go down the coast, my family is all about the cookies and the chocolates and the chips and lollies. Everyone just like sits around one person's cabin and passes around the biscuits and passes around the chocolate. Like, I've known this since I was a baby. I always bring my own healthy snacks and healthy treats, and usually they go around and everyone loves them as well. So I'm going to add a sprinkle of cinnamon, some sneaky fun bits in before I add the wet ingredients. So now that I'm 36 weeks pregnant, another thing I'm doing to get my body ready for labor is having 6 dates a day. Yes, 6. But you know, the research says it helps shorten your labor time and gets your cervix ready, increases your oxytocin levels. I'm gonna do a video on it. This is going to help me get a little bit of dates in, and I like to add it to the dry mixture first because I feel like it separates easier. I'm just gonna add a decent handful of black currants, like dried currants. Then to make them choc chip cookies, I'm just going to add a block of dark Loving Earth chocolate. Actually, I got a few DMs the other day saying, what's the difference between Loving Earth chocolate and normal chocolate? Essentially everything. So the dark chocolate is just raw cacao beans, coconut nectar, cacao, and that's it. Literally 3 ingredients. Vegan, cane sugar-free, gluten-free, dairy-free. That's my style. I want to chop it up in like small shards. Doesn't look perfect. I just think it's a little bit more quirky and fun. Oh, I love the sound of cracking chocolate. Did anyone used to watch Nigella on TV, Nigella Lawson? And she would make like gooey chocolate cakes and cookies and muffins, and the way she talked about food was like so kind of sexual.
I love the clattery noise that they make as you mix them into the batter.
I used to love that show, and I was like, I want to be Nigella, but be the healthy version. What would she say? She would be like, the smell of the cracking chocolate just makes my heart warm, like a cold winter's day, rugged up watching a movie with my husband. I think I've got it. Okay, we'll add them in. Make sure all your dates are separated and not in one awkward clump. So that is looking good to me. Time for the wet ingredients. So I like to use a little bowl like this. Normally, you guys know I don't use a microwave and I'll do it over the stove. But to be completely honest, I'm running short on time today. So I'm using the Loving Earth coconut oil, and I'm gonna do 2 heaped tablespoons of that into the bowl. 1 tablespoon of honey. Not strong enough. And then my secret weapon ingredient is yacon syrup. If you've had malt syrup before, it tastes very, very similar to that. Yacon also acts as a prebiotic passing through the intestines where it feeds the body good bacteria. Love that. But again, you can add any liquid sweetener that you want. And then I'm just gonna chuck that in the microwave for 30 seconds. I'm gonna make a well in the middle of my dry mixture, crack the egg, add a little dash of nut milk. Normally I use almond, but today I have coconut. So a dash of that. And you can always add more, so add a little bit, and then yeah, you can always make it a little bit gooier. Make sure those wet ingredients are all combined and not too hot, because if you put it in, it's gonna scramble your egg, and that is gross. A little capful of vanilla essence, and we're going to mix that all together. And I think last time I did have to add a little bit more buckwheat flour, especially onto my hands when I was rolling it into balls. As you can see, that is quite a wet mixture, and good luck to us trying to roll that into balls and not have it all over our hands. So if it's like that, you can definitely add some more buckwheat flour, some tapioca flour. You can add some more almond flour, but I don't want it to be too heavy. I think that'll be good. Okay, this is looking more like a cookie batter now. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Okay, I wouldn't advise doing this when you're pregnant, because you're not supposed to have like egg yolk, but I'm just gonna taste a little bit. Don't judge me, please don't hate me in the comments. You wanna make sure it's really sweet in the batter. I say this all the time, but it's so true, because I personally think it always tastes sweeter in the batter than it does when it's cooked. I'm gonna add a tiny, tiny bit more honey. That's what I forgot. Coconut sugar, 2 tablespoons, and then that's perfect. I knew it didn't have that sweet kick. Oh, this is gonna be so yum. One more taste tester. So before you start rolling your cookies, get your jewelry off, because ain't nobody got time for that. And I just like to put a little bit of flour over my hands. Again, the buckwheat flour. And this just helps the cookie dough not like stick everywhere. And get like a tablespoon amount. And that's basically the size cookies I do. And don't worry if they're floury on the outside, it still works perfectly. And I like to mush it down with my hand, because it helps it all cook evenly. So this ended up making like 16 cookies, and I'm just going to chuck them in the oven for around 10 minutes. Oh, they look so yummy. I can't really reach with this baby bump. Oh baby, can you see that steam? Oh, it smells good. So good. Too good that I eat them way too quickly. I'm gonna let them cool down, and then I like to keep them in a cute little jar in the pantry.